Hello and welcome to another Orkin Australia training video. Today we will be discussing the coring of Sentricon stations into concrete or paving. We will talk about the mechanical aspects of coring, the theory behind baiting, and of course, as with any tasks, the occupational health and safety aspects of the job. In this instance, Rob has completed a risk assessment and has decided that the appropriate PPE to use are safety glasses, to protect against any pieces of concrete or slurry that may splash up, earmuffs to protect his hearing as the corer produces enough noise to warrant protection, and gloves to reduce the effects of vibration and to protect from nicks and cuts while extracting the cores. A corer is an electrical device that has a motor, a cutting bit or core piece, and an attachment to provide water to cool the cutting tool and aid in the removal of concrete dust. As with all electrical devices, we will be using a residual current device, or RCD. The materials we require to complete this install are a Sentricon 2 station with the flange removed. The purpose of this is to ensure that the rod stays close enough to the soil so that termites can access it, but clear enough so that we can remove the HD rod to check for consumption and replace when required. You need a non-slip stainless steel cap to cover the hole created and ensure that the station remains moist and humid. The moist and humid conditions are conducive to termites foraging and feeding on this rod. As discussed, the corer is used to create a hole in the concrete, and as this creates concrete slurry, we will require a slurry ring and a wet and dry vac so that we can remove this slurry, leaving a neat and tidy job with less cleanup. We have the Sentricon auger, which cleans the sand from the hole to allow us to insert the station. We have a bucket to collect that sand, and a mallet to remove the cores from the core bit. The HD rod, as you see here, is a high-density cellulose material that contains hexafluoron, a 15A insecticide that prevents the insect from producing its exoskeleton. It is a chitin synthesis inhibitor. Completing a Sentricon install, it is important to set out your stations and check the locations with the owner. They must be installed at a maximum of 3 meters apart and 300 millimeters to 600 millimeters out from the wall. This distance has been decided by the researchers and developers of the product as the maximum distance where we can pick up actively foraging termites. It is important to take into account the locations of pipework, corners, heavy furniture, and chemical treatment zones. In this case, Rob has noted a chemical treatment zone and has brought his install out and away from it. He measures the distance from the wall and places a white dot to ensure a professional looking finish. Rob has now tested his RCD is operational. He has his slurry ring with his white mark at the centre, and he has ensured that the hose and the cord behind his legs and away from the moving parts of the corer. At this point, Rob will now begin to core the hole. When beginning to core your hole, you need to start the vacuum and turn on the water. You don't want the water on full power, as this will lead to unnecessary trips to empty the wet vac. But it needs to be on enough so that the slurry does not clog up the core piece. When starting a core, it's important to make sure that the core piece does not skip on the concrete, as this will damage and leave marks on the concrete. This can be done by starting on an angle until you get bite and then bringing the core piece up to level, or as Rob has done in this case, with the core piece between your boots until the cut gets purchased. Continue to core until the piece breaks through the concrete. It is important to stop the corer as soon as this happens to minimize the risk of damaging a pipe or a cable that could be under the concrete. At this point, the core needs to be removed from the piece prior to completing any further cores. Never do multiple cores without emptying. So with the water on, you need to tap the core piece with a rubber mallet while rotating it to vibrate the core out. Please note this is a tap, and it is the vibration that gets the core out, not the force of the hit. This should never ever be done with a metal hammer, as you will damage the core bit and also prevent yourself from getting that core out of the piece. Once you've removed the core from the piece, it is then time to auger out the sand from the hole. You need to auger the hole to a depth where the top of the sand sits at the top of the auger piece. This gives us a hole that is 30% deeper than the station itself. This allows any sand or debris to fall into the hole without us needing to auger the hole again. Please note, once the hole has been augered, it is important that you place the sand into a bucket or container to ensure that we leave the site in as clean state as we found it, or cleaner. It also reduces the time of needing to sweep up at the end. Once the hole is augered out and we have removed the sand, it is then time to place the station into the hole. Sentricon 2 station is placed inside the augered hole, ensuring a snug fit. Gloves are used to ensure we don't contaminate the rod with remnants of chemical, nicotine or deodorant on our hands. These products have the ability to taint the rod, making it not palatable for termite consumption. The HD rod is then placed into the station, ready for the foraging termites to begin consuming. That is the great advantage of the always active rods. The spread of the active ingredient hexafluoron through trophallaxis, that is the process of transference by termites of food through anal excretions, which are then consumed by other termites after a bacteria in the intestine has broken down the cellulose, can begin from day one. This allows the ability for colony control to occur prior to us coming out for our station check. With other monitoring systems, we only begin this process once we have checked the station and added an active bait. Always make sure you tighten the cap so that you do not leave a trip hazard at site.